Hi folks, welcome back to Metal Mill 52. I'm back out in the workshop this week. If you saw the video I posted this weekend about painting kitchen cabinets, and you're not into that, maybe I hope it was of value to you. Believe it or not, my original video that I posted almost 4 years ago about painting those kitchen cabinets, it's got 22,000 views. So apparently some people are interested in painting their kitchen cabinets, and I thought the posting the update and the information about touch-ups was helpful to folks, and I think it has been. But we're back out in the workshop. We're working on the LBSC TICH, little 3.5-inch gauge locomotive. This is what the book looks like. LBSC is the name of the designer of the locomotive. That's his pseudonym anyway. And this week we spent the whole time making these tiny little connecting rods that will go to the crossheads, and they came out really nice. I finished them, and I didn't really touch on making the bushings. I've covered that in previous episodes, but we made them from stock that looks like this, a little cold rolled steel that I got from McMaster Carr. You can use hot rolled steel too, as we used for the earlier version of the rods. But this is what, let me tilt the camera down and you can see. Loosen this up a little bit. You can see here. There we go. Alright, this is what the assemblies look like in the crosshead, the tiny little crosshead that we made last time, and the guide bar that gets screwed into the rear cover of the cylinders. So, and that's the pin and the bolt and all that stuff that hold it all together. And this is what the actual connecting rod looks like. This is the left hand side one. This is the right hand side, and I left it loose so you could take a look. But this week's episode will cover making this. It was very interesting, very challenging project in a couple of regards, and I did learn something interesting about making the taper. If you can tell, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera or not, but this one came out a lot better than the other one as far as the individual taper along there goes, and I'll show you why and how I did that. So please stay tuned, enjoy. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you don't have questions and you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. The encouragement, it does mean a lot to me. Just know folks are out there watching it, and I appreciate that, and hope you have a great week, and we'll keep you posted as we move along in this project. Thanks, everybody. Since the crossheads and guides are finished here, the next thing is the little connecting rods that will connect to the inside the crossheads, and the little 3/8-inch ends there, and have a 1/2-inch radius here that will connect to the rear driver of the locomotive. So I got some pieces. They're about 5.5 inches long. It's this nice 3/16-inch by 5/8-inch cold rolled steel that I got from McMaster Carr. I cleaned it off and just blued it with a Sharpie, and then laid out the dimensions and for each. And as you can see, I've marked them left and right. The only significant difference at this point would be where the oil hole is on the top of the rear piece for each one. And there will be some differences in the thickness, well, the thickness and the way it's oriented. So best to start out with the idea of having them left and right in mind. And I also have the material here for the bushings, the same thing that I used for the bushings in the connecting rods. And I plan to use this piece of 1.25-inch angle aluminum, or square aluminum, that I can use similar to how I made these. After I drill the oil holes, then I can drill and mount these pieces to the box, so to speak, and then I can have the mounting bolts out to the end, and then I can do all the required drilling and milling operations. So before I do that though, I'll drill the oil holes while it's still square, probably drill the mounting holes, and then take it off and use the bandsaw to cut away a lot of that material there, and I'll just leave these little end pieces. So we'll get to that pretty soon. Okay, that's a good start anyway, getting both of the little rods laid out, and I've drilled the little oil holes and reservoir holes inside the top of both of them. I just finished this one and put a little countersink on it. So the I think I used the number 51 for the tiny little passageway hole that will go all the way through, and I'll have to drill through the bearing once it's installed. And this is a number 44 drill that I use that's larger for the reservoir portion, and of course a center drill, and I used a wiggler to make sure I had lined up to the exact spot. With the connecting rod blanks laid out on this nice cold rolled steel, the first thing I'm going to do is, or have just finished doing, is to drill some 1/4-inch holes in the ends. As you can see, I made the blanks longer than they need to be, and I'm going to use these bolt holes after I deburr them to bolt the assemblies down to a piece of aluminum block. I'll show you that in a second. With the holes drilled here, then I cleaned off the piece of aluminum block, which I did file it down to make it smooth the other day. Cleaned it off good with acetone, and cleaned off the back of the part with some acetone as well. Put some blocks in place so that when I glue it down and then bolt it down, it'll be exactly where I want it. I just used little backstops here and a little piece of 3/16" keyway. Pressed it into place, let it dry. I just put a couple little dots because I'm going to try to remove this in a minute, and use the bandsaw to saw away some of the excess material. So I wanted it held down while it's all square, and I've got these ends in place to drill the holes so that I can bolt it. So it's all set for drilling the holes for the bolts. Not much to see here, but the holes are drilled. So now I'm going to take the heat gun and release the bar stock from the aluminum, and also the little 3/16" bar stock got stuck on there, so I'll take that off. Then I can bandsaw the taper in and get ready to start milling. Heat gun to remove. It's probably loose enough already. I love these little heat guns. Alright, here's the left side rod. Straight out of the bandsaw. I ran it through the belt sander just a little bit to clean it up. But you can see just a few minutes, 10 minutes on the bandsaw will save a ton of time going back and forth and milling that out. So the next order of business is to clean the mounting surface off a little bit. Got to remove some residual crazy glue that's still stuck on there. I'll just use a straight a safety razor for that, which I already did to the back of this. Once I have a good flat clean surface, then I'll bolt it down in place and align the mill to drill the holes, and away we go. Here's the setup ready to go, and this is how I work. It's Monday night. It's time for me to go in. Bedtime, got work tomorrow, so it's all bolted in place and ready to go. I use the wiggler to find the center of the large bearing, and also make sure it aligned perfectly with the center of the front bearing, the small side. So first things first, we'll drill these holes, and both of them to size. We'll mill the arms to shape, and we'll mill the body down to a thickness. We'll have to put it on its side to give it the nice curvature, but we can do a lot of the work with the piece just like this. So it's in place here. I've got the washers and nuts there, and it's tightened down really good. So I think we're in fine shape. And 3 7/8 apart, 0 0, ready to rock and roll. Okay, as simple as that. The holes are punched through for the bearings. So we're off to do a little bit of milling while the thing is in this orientation. I'll bring you back to that. We're going to do the angles here and then the thickness on this end. I'll do the angles first so I can see the lines, then we'll work on the thickness. Okay, because the lines are not parallel on these, it's a 1/4 inch dimension here and 3/16 here, so a total of 1/16 of an inch narrower. So the slant would be a 32nd of an inch, from this edge, from that line down to this line. So what I'm going to do is I've got some 1/32 inch brass shim stock, and I'm just going to set this in the end over here and let that be my offset. So I think that'll be close enough. I'll set that up and let's see how it works. Okay, there's the back side of the first piece of the left-hand side. I ended up putting the shim against the fixed jaw, and it gave me a pretty good angle. You down to your scribe line, and you can see that it's raised a burr there. Maybe you can see that. So now it's time to switch over to the front side. I only take off about 5 thou at a time, but it doesn't take long at all since I bandsawed away the portion that I didn't need. So I'm going to flip it around and I'll show you the milling of the front side. Okay, I guess I don't understand trig as well as I should. I got a taper here, but it doesn't go from 1/4 inch down to 3/16. It's 3/16 here, but it's not quite 1/4 here. So I guess when I do the other one, I'll use a little bit larger offsets to give me a little bit more of an angle. I got some 40 thou brass I can try, or I can just use a 1/16 inch. But either way, I mean, the idea worked. It just didn't give me the angle I want, and it should be fine. So I've got it set up now. Put it in a larger end mill so I can do the thicknessing. And we're going to take this down from the end portion, which is just shy of the hold down screw, out to this blue mark. It's going to go down to 5.156 or 5/32 of an inch thick. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and take that all the way down to here, this blue mark, which is 5/8 of an inch from the other end here. And that way, I've got it'll be minimal, excuse me, minimal work to do. I'll tip it up on its edge and then use the side of this end mill to take the center part down to an 1/8 inch thick. So we'll get that all done tomorrow. Okay, it's the next night. Before I fire up the machine and start trimming the thickness, I laid out where those long blue stripes are. That's basically the extent of, first of all, this part here gets trimmed down to a height of 0.156, and then the center part here is I'll have to tip the box up on its side and mill this down, like side mill it down to an 1/8 inch thick. But so I just put those stripes there to guide me a little bit. Also, I think I figured out why I didn't get the perfect taper I was hoping for. Hopefully this very highly complex description makes sense. You can see what I did was I placed one offset shim in, but I didn't do both. I probably should have done one on each, opposite end to give that exaggerated tilt that you see here in the picture. So I redrew the schematic for myself. I'll have a chance to check this out when I try it on the other side, on the other connecting rod. But I think my mistake was I just used one shim to do the offset. I think if I'd have used both, then I would have got a perfect offset. Okay, in a matter of minutes, we got it thinned out down to 5/32 along the whole length. Now I just need to tip it up on end and mill the center web down to an 1/8 inch thick. This should be the last pass. This shows you the beautiful utility of having a little square block that you can just tip up. I've got it down. I need to take off 6 thou more. So what I do, I've already got it at the furthest extent on this end. Go ahead and start it up. Start the mill up. Got my y-axis set at 0 on the DRO. Crank in 6 thou depth of cut. Nice and steady, feed it over. Crank it back. I'm not flying milling or anything, I'm just returning it to the starting spot basically. Now I'll shut it down and take a measurement, and if it's all checks out, then we're good. Alright, here we are on Wednesday night. Got the first one done for most of its operations, and the second one I've got it crazy glued and bolted into place, and I've got the holes drilled and everything's lined up in the mill. DRO set. So we'll shut it down for tonight, come back tomorrow and do some milling. Getting ready to work on the right side connecting rod, and As you may notice, I did goof up one thing. I didn't, like I usually bandsaw away the excess material, but in this case I forgot to do that before I glued and bolted the thing down. So I've already done that, and I've drilled the holes and everything. So now what I've done, I decided I'm just going to go ahead and mill it. The one good thing about this whole thing, it'll let me see if this process works correctly. So I've got the shims in alternating sides to tilt the block and the amount of offset that I think I need in order to get the angle. This way, by having all that material to remove, it'll take a few minutes, and I should be able to see whether I'm following the proper angle. So I'm not going to video that because that's kind of a two-handed operation, but I'll bring you back when we get close to finishing this side. Looks like my little offset shims did the trick. Probably can't see that really well, but I just looked at it with a magnifying glass. I got it right down to the line there, and it's perfectly parallel the whole way. So off to the next side, and it really didn't take that much longer to do. It was about 200 thousandths of lateral travel to come in, the total distance of the offset on the y-axis. I did about 10 thou, 15 thou at a time, so what didn't take too long, wasn't too bad. Productive evening tonight. Tonight's Thursday night, and I think the trick with the offset worked out just perfectly. You can see the demonstrable, well, I can anyway, let me put it this way. You can see much more of an angle there on the connecting rod. I can. And I've just milled this whole section down to 156 thou, or 5/32 tall. And I'll just, tomorrow, it's running late tonight, but tomorrow I'll come in and tip it on its side and side mill the center section down, just like I did the other one. I decided to use the rotary table for machining the rounded small end, the 3/8 inch round head. So I've got everything is centered up and ready to go. Thought I'd shoot a video before I actually start machining. I thought about the offset. I've got a 1/4 inch cutter in there, so I'll be offsetting 5/16 to get me to, or that would be the final offset from the center. We've got the DRO centered out now, so naturally I'll start further on, but it'll end at the 5/16 measurement. And I did cut off I used the saw and cut off some of the excess steel. Okay, here's the finished 3/8 inch small rod end, and it fits good. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. I'm wearing gloves because I got a bunch of little sharp shards in my hands the other day. There we go. There it fits on there perfectly. This is the right side crosshead. So yay. I'm going to declare victory on that. Obviously I have to take it out and clean it up a good bit, file it and so forth to deburr it. But now I think what I'll do is, well, I've got the right side wood mounted here, and I got such a nice result from using the rotary table, and the rotary table is centered here. I think what I'll do is flip this piece around, recenter it over the large hole here, and I'll have to remember not to go all the way around, of course, because of the oil hole, but I can get a nice round edge on that. Here we are set up to mill the round area around the large part of the right side end. I'm shooting a few seconds of the machining process in the rotary table. Really do get a nice result. I've only been taking off about 10 thou at a time. This is the last cut. I'm only taking off 5 thou to get down to about a 1/2 inch radius. See what I'm doing. Taking light cuts, you can crank it pretty fast. Not that you want to see the race, but I'm not doing climb milling because they cut so much smoother in conventional versus climb. Here's the completed right side unit, and it's looking really good. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. That's straight off the mill. Haven't deburred or filed or anything yet, so thinking that's pretty nice. I'll take this off, clean it up a little bit, and then mount the left side one on where it was milled, and center it all up and do the same technique. Hey folks, one more part finished. Really excited about this. Got the rods done, bearings made and installed, drilled the little oil holes, and I cleaned them up a little bit and test fit them inside the crossheads, and it all fits good, looks good. I can't wait to finish up and get on to the next parts. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be the last little installment for this episode. If you have questions, please ask. If you would, please pass the word. Please give me a thumbs up. If you don't have any questions and you want to just keep me encouraged, I appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.